There is a moment that comes for every soul, a moment that cannot be avoided, postponed, or negotiated. It arrives without warning for some, and with slow certainty for others. It is the moment when the heart stops beating, when the breath leaves the body for the last time, when the eyes close and do not open again. For those left behind, this moment is called death. But for the soul inside that body, it is something entirely different. It is the beginning of the most important 12 hours of your existence. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet who could access the deepest mysteries of the universe while in trance, spoke about this moment with clarity and certainty. He described what happens to the soul immediately after the physical body stops functioning, and what he revealed is both comforting and startling. Because death is not what most people think it is. It is not an ending. It is not darkness. It is not sleep. It is a transition. And the first 12 hours of that transition will determine everything about what comes next. You need to understand something important right now. The moment your heart stops, you do not disappear. You do not vanish into nothing. You do not cease to exist. Your consciousness continues. Your awareness remains. You are still you. But the body you have lived in, the body you have identified with for decades, that body is no longer yours. It has become a shell, an empty vessel. And for the first time in your entire life, you are free from it. But this freedom is not instant. It does not happen all at once. The soul does not simply leap out of the body like a bird escaping a cage. According to Cayce, the separation process is gradual. It unfolds in stages. And during the first few moments after death, the soul is still partially connected to the physical form. There are threads of energy, invisible cords, that link the soul to the body it once inhabited. These cords must be gently released. They must be allowed to dissolve naturally, and this takes time. In those first moments, the soul often experiences confusion. It does not immediately understand what has happened. It may still feel the body. It may still sense the room, the bed, the people standing nearby. It may hear voices. It may see faces. But something is different. Something has changed. The soul tries to move the body, but the body does not respond. It tries to speak, but no sound comes out. It tries to reach out, but there is no hand to extend. This is the moment of realization, the moment when the soul understands that it is no longer physical. For some souls, this realization brings relief. For others, it brings fear. For many, it brings a strange mixture of both.
Because even though the soul is now free from the limitations of the body, it is also stepping into the unknown. It is entering a realm that feels both familiar and foreign, a place that exists beyond time and space, a dimension that the physical mind cannot fully comprehend while it is still trapped inside flesh and bone. Cayce explained that during these first moments, the soul begins to perceive things it could not perceive before. It sees colors that do not exist in the physical world. It hears sounds that are not made by physical objects. It feels sensations that have no name in human language. This is because the soul is now operating on a different frequency. It is no longer limited by the 5 physical senses. It is beginning to awaken to its true nature, its spiritual nature, the nature it had before it was born into a body, and the nature it will carry forward into eternity. But here is what most people do not know. Here is the secret that Cayce revealed about the first 12 hours after death. During this crucial period, the soul is not yet fully on the other side. It is in between. It is in a kind of waiting room, a space that exists between the physical world and the spiritual world. Cayce called this the Gatekeeper phase, and what happens during these 12 hours will determine whether the soul moves smoothly into the light or whether it becomes stuck in confusion, fear, or attachment. You see, not all souls leave the physical world easily. Some souls hold on. They cling to the body they just left. They hover near their loved ones, trying to communicate, trying to stay connected. They are not ready to let go. They are not ready to move forward. And this reluctance, this resistance, can delay the natural process of transition. It can trap the soul in a state of limbo, a state where it is no longer alive, but not yet fully free. Cayce taught that the soul's state of mind at the moment of death is critically important. If the soul is at peace, if it has prepared spiritually during life, if it understands that death is not an ending but a transformation, then the transition is smooth. The soul releases from the body naturally. It follows the light. It moves toward the higher realms without hesitation or fear. But if the soul is filled with regret, with unresolved pain, with deep attachments to people or places or things, then the separation is difficult. The soul struggles, it resists, and these first 12 hours become a battle between moving forward and holding back. During this gatekeeper phase, the soul is met by guides. These are spiritual beings who have been assigned to help the soul make the transition. Some people call them angels, others call them helpers or guardians. Cayce simply called them guides.
And their job is to gently lead the soul away from the physical world and toward the spiritual world. They do not force, they do not push, they offer guidance, reassurance, and support. But the soul must be willing to follow. If the soul is open, if it is ready, if it has faith in what comes next, then these guides will lead it through a process of review and preparation. This is not judgment, this is not punishment. This is simply a moment of reflection. The soul is shown glimpses of the life it just lived. It sees the moments of kindness. It sees the moments of harm. It sees the lessons it learned and the lessons it missed. And all of this is done with compassion, not condemnation. Because the purpose is not to make the soul feel guilty. The purpose is to help the soul understand. Understanding is everything in those first 12 hours. Because once the soul truly understands that it is no longer bound by the physical body, once it accepts that it has crossed over into a new state of being, then it can begin to move forward. It can begin to release the old identity, the identity that was tied to a name, a face, a life story, and it can start to remember who it really is, not the person it was in that one lifetime, but the eternal soul that has existed long before that lifetime and will continue to exist long after. Cayce spoke often about the soul's eternal nature. He taught that we are not our bodies, we are not our personalities, we are not even our memories. We are souls, spiritual beings who take on physical form in order to learn, grow, and evolve. And when the body dies, the soul simply sheds that form, like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. It does not lose itself. It does not cease to be. It becomes more itself than it ever was while trapped inside flesh and bone. But this process of becoming requires letting go, and that is where many souls struggle, because even though the body is dead, the soul still remembers what it felt like to be alive. It remembers the warmth of the sun on the skin, the taste of food, the sound of a loved one's voice, the touch of a hand. And these memories can be powerful. They can create a longing, a desire to return, a wish to stay just a little longer. And if the soul gives in to this longing, if it refuses to move forward, then it can become stuck in a kind of spiritual fog, a place where it is neither fully here nor fully there. Cayce called this state the earthbound condition. It is a condition where the soul remains attached to the physical world even though it no longer has a physical body. It hovers near the places it used to live. It watches over the people it used to love. It tries to communicate, but no one can hear it. It tries to help, but it has no hands to reach out with. And over time, this condition can become deeply painful because the soul is caught between two worlds. It cannot go back to the life it had, but it also cannot move forward into the life that awaits it. This is why the first 12 hours are so important. This is the window of time when the soul is most vulnerable, most open to influence, most in need of guidance. And this is when the spiritual guides work hardest to help the soul let go. They send waves of love. They project feelings of peace. They show the soul visions of what lies ahead, beautiful realms of light and color, reunions with loved ones who have already crossed over, a sense of homecoming that is deeper and more complete than anything the soul experienced on earth. But even with all this help, some souls still resist. Why? Because they are afraid. They are afraid of the unknown. They are afraid of judgment. They are afraid that they did not live a good enough life. They are afraid that they will be punished for their mistakes. And this fear can become a wall that blocks the soul from moving forward. It can trap the soul in darkness, not because the darkness is real, but because the soul believes it is real. And in the spiritual world, belief creates reality. This is something Cayce emphasized again and again. The state of the soul after death is determined by the beliefs it held during life. If you believe that death is the end, then for a time you may experience a kind of emptiness. If you believe that you will be judged harshly, then for a time you may experience feelings of guilt and fear. If you believe that you are unworthy of heaven, then for a time you may find yourself in a place that reflects that unworthiness. But none of these experiences are permanent. None of them are imposed by God or by the universe. They are self-created. They are projections of the soul's own mind. And as soon as the soul realizes this, as soon as it understands that it has the power to change its experience, then everything shifts. The first 12 hours are when this realization is most likely to occur, because during this time, the soul is receiving constant guidance and support. It is being shown the truth. It is being reminded of its divine nature. It is being gently nudged toward the light. And most souls, even those who struggled during life, even those who made terrible mistakes, eventually accept this guidance. They eventually let go of their fear. They eventually step into the light. And when they do, the transition is complete. But what about those who do not? What about the souls who refuse to listen, who refuse to move forward, who insist on staying close to the physical world? Cayce taught that these souls do not remain stuck forever. Eventually, they will move on.
Eventually, they will be reached by a guide or a loved one who can break through their resistance. But the time they spend in this in-between state can feel very long. Because in the spiritual world, time does not work the way it does on Earth. A few hours can feel like days. A few days can feel like years. And the suffering that comes from being stuck in this state is real. This is why preparation is so important. This is why it matters what you believe, what you know, and what you practice while you are still alive. Because the soul that is spiritually prepared does not struggle during those first 12 hours. It does not resist. It does not cling. It moves smoothly through the transition because it understands what is happening. It trusts the process. It has faith in what comes next. And this faith is not blind. It is based on knowledge. Knowledge that can be gained right now, in this moment, while you are still in the body. Cayce taught that death should not be feared. It should be understood. And once it is understood, it becomes something beautiful, something sacred, a doorway rather than a wall, a beginning rather than an ending. And the souls who understand this, who have studied it, who have meditated on it, who have prepared for it, these are the souls who make the easiest transitions. They leave the body with grace. They follow the guides with trust. They move into the light with joy. And within those first 12 hours, they are already reunited with loved ones, already beginning their review of the life they just lived, already preparing for what comes next. What comes next is something most people do not think about until it is too late, but Cayce spoke about it with great clarity. After the soul completes its transition, after it has moved through the gatekeeper phase and accepted its new state of being, it enters what Cayce called the life review. This is not a judgment handed down by an external force. This is a process of self-examination, a moment when the soul sees its entire life from a higher perspective. Every action, every word, every thought, every choice, all of it is laid out before the soul like a tapestry, and the soul is asked to look at it honestly, without excuses, without blame, just truth. This review is not meant to punish, it is meant to teach, because the soul cannot grow without understanding. It cannot evolve without seeing clearly where it succeeded and where it failed. And during this review, the soul does not just see its own experiences, it also feels the impact it had on others. If it caused someone pain, it feels that pain. If it brought someone joy, it feels that joy. This is not punishment. This is empathy. This is the soul learning what it means to be connected to all other souls.
Learning that every action has a ripple effect, that nothing is done in isolation, that love and harm both spread outward in ways the physical mind cannot fully grasp. But before the soul can reach this life review, Before it can move fully into the spiritual realms, it must complete the separation from the physical body. And this separation happens in stages during those first 12 hours. The first stage is the release of the physical senses. The soul stops seeing with eyes. It stops hearing with ears. It stops feeling through skin. Instead, it begins to perceive directly. It begins to sense energy, emotion, and intention without the need for physical input. This is a strange and disorienting experience for most souls, because for an entire lifetime, the soul has relied on the body to interact with the world, and now the body is gone. The soul must learn to navigate reality in a completely new way. The second stage is the release of physical needs. The soul no longer needs food, water, air, or sleep. It no longer experiences hunger, thirst, or exhaustion. These were functions of the body, not the soul. And once the body is gone, the soul is free from all of these limitations. This can feel like a tremendous relief, or it can feel like a loss, because many souls identify so strongly with their physical needs that they do not know who they are without them. They do not know how to exist without the constant cycle of eating, sleeping, and moving through space. The third stage is the release of personal identity. This is the hardest stage for most souls, because during life we build a sense of self based on our name, our appearance, our relationships, our career, our achievements. We say, I am this, I am that, and we believe it. We believe that these labels define us. But in death, all of those labels fall away. The soul is no longer a man or a woman, no longer young or old, no longer rich or poor, no longer successful or struggling. The soul is simply a soul, a being of light and energy. And this stripping away of identity can feel like a death within a death. It can feel like losing yourself completely. But in reality, it is the opposite. It is finding yourself, your true self, the self that exists beyond all labels and roles and stories. During these first 12 hours, the soul is guided through all three stages, and the guides who assist in this process are patient. They do not rush, they do not force. They understand that each soul moves at its own pace. Some souls release quickly. They let go of the body, the needs, and the identity without struggle. They are ready. They have been ready for a long time. But other souls hold on tightly. They resist each stage. They cling to the memory of who they were. And for these souls, the 12 hours can feel long and difficult. Cayce taught that the soul's experience during these 12 hours is directly related to how it lived. A soul that lived with love, with service, with spiritual awareness will transition smoothly. It will not cling to the physical world because it understands that the physical world is temporary. It knows that something greater awaits. But a soul that lived in fear, in selfishness, in denial of the spiritual will struggle. It will not want to let go because it does not believe there is anything beyond the physical. It will fight against the guides. It will resist the process, and it will suffer because of that resistance. This is not punishment. This is simply the natural consequence of how the soul chose to live. If you spend your entire life denying the existence of the soul, then when you die and find yourself as a soul, it will be a shock. It will be confusing. It will take time to adjust. But if you spend your life cultivating awareness of the soul, if you meditate, if you pray, if you study spiritual teachings, if you live with the understanding that you are more than your body, then death will not be a shock. It will be a natural transition, a homecoming. Cayce also spoke about the importance of forgiveness during these first 12 hours, because many souls carry guilt, they carry regret, they carry the weight of mistakes they made during life. And this weight can become a chain that holds them back. It can prevent them from moving forward into the light. The guides try to help these souls understand that forgiveness is possible, that they are not defined by their worst moments, that growth is always possible, that the universe does not condemn them. But the soul must be willing to forgive itself, and that is not always easy. Some souls become so trapped in guilt that they create their own hell, not because hell is a real place, but because the soul's inner state creates its outer experience. If you believe you deserve punishment, you will experience punishment. If you believe you are unworthy of love, you will feel unloved. And this can go on for a long time, until the soul finally realizes that it has the power to change its experience, that it can choose to forgive itself, that it can choose to accept the love and guidance that is being offered. And once it makes that choice, everything changes. The darkness lifts, the weight dissolves, and the soul is free to move forward. Moving forward means entering the realms of light. These are the spiritual dimensions that exist beyond the physical world. Cayce described them as places of indescribable beauty, places where thought creates form, where love is the substance of all things, where souls gather to learn, to heal, to prepare for their next journey. These realms are not far away. They are not in some distant corner of the universe. They are here, all around us, interpenetrating the physical world. But they vibrate at a frequency that physical eyes cannot see. Only the soul can perceive them, and only after death, or during deep meditation, can the soul fully enter them. During the first 12 hours, the soul begins to catch glimpses of these realms. It sees flashes of light. It hears music that has no earthly source. It feels the presence of loved ones who have already crossed over. And these glimpses serve as a guide. They show the soul where it is headed. They reassure the soul that it is not alone, that it is safe, that it is loved. And for many souls, these glimpses are enough to dissolve any remaining fear. They are enough to inspire trust. And once the soul trusts, it can let go completely. But what determines which realm the soul enters? What decides whether it moves into a place of light and love, or into a place of confusion and darkness? Cayce taught that the soul goes to the level that matches its vibration. If the soul vibrated at a high frequency during life, if it lived with love, with compassion, with service, then it will naturally move into the higher realms. If the soul vibrated at a low frequency, if it lived with anger, with fear, with selfishness, then it will move into the lower realms. This is not a judgment imposed from outside. This is simply the law of attraction.
Like attracts like, and the soul is drawn to the place that resonates with its inner state. This is why spiritual preparation is so important, because the work you do now, while you are still alive, determines where you will go after death. If you cultivate love, you will enter a realm of love. If you cultivate peace, you will enter a realm of peace. If you cultivate anger, you will enter a realm of anger. It is that simple, and it is that profound, because you are creating your afterlife right now, in this moment, with every thought, every word, every action. You are setting the vibrational tone that will determine your experience after death. Cayce also spoke about the importance of spiritual study. He said that souls who study the mysteries of life and death during their time on earth have a great advantage, because they are not surprised by what happens after death. They are not confused. They do not panic. They recognize the guides. They understand the process. They move through the transition with ease. And this knowledge is not secret. It is not hidden. It is available to anyone who seeks it. You do not need to be a mystic or a saint. You simply need to be curious. You simply need to ask the question, what happens after I die? And then you need to seek the answer, not from fear, but from a sincere desire to know the truth. The truth is that death is not the end. It is not even a break in the journey. It is simply a change of form, a change of frequency. The soul continues. The consciousness continues. The relationships continue. Everything that was real about you continues. Only the body is left behind. And the body was never the real you anyway. It was a vehicle, a tool, a temporary dwelling place. And when the lease is up, the soul moves out. It does not die. It simply relocates. During the final hours of the 12-hour Gatekeeper phase, the soul makes a choice. It chooses to move forward or to hold back. And this choice is influenced by everything the soul learned during life. If the soul learned that it is eternal, it moves forward. If the soul learned that it is loved, it moves forward. If the soul learned that death is transformation, it moves forward. But if the soul believed that death is the end, if it believed that it is alone, if it believed that it is unworthy, then it hesitates, it lingers, it struggles, and the 12 hours stretch out into something longer and more painful. But even in that pain, there is opportunity, because the guides never give up. They continue to send love. They continue to offer reassurance. They continue to show the soul that there is another way. And eventually, most souls accept. Eventually, they step through the gate. They cross over fully.
And when they do, they are greeted by a gathering of souls who have been waiting for them. Loved ones, friends, family members who crossed over before, spiritual teachers, guides, all of them welcoming the soul home. This reunion is one of the most beautiful moments in the afterlife, because the soul realizes that it was never alone, that it was always connected, that love does not end with death, that relationships continue beyond the grave. And this realization brings a joy that cannot be described in words, a joy that fills the soul completely, a joy that makes all the pain and struggle of life seem small in comparison, because the soul is finally home, finally free, finally at peace. But the question remains, how do you prepare for these first 12 hours? How do you ensure that your transition is smooth, that you do not become stuck, that you move into the light with ease? Cayce gave very clear guidance on this, and it begins now, not at the moment of death, but in this moment, while you are still alive, while you still have time to learn, to grow, to shift your beliefs and your vibrations. The first step is to accept that death is real. This may seem obvious, but many people live as if they will never die. They push the thought away, they avoid it, they pretend it will not happen to them. And this avoidance creates fear, because what we do not face, we fear. So face it. Acknowledge that one day your body will stop, and when it does, you will continue. You will not end. You will simply change form. Accept this truth deeply. Let it sink into your bones. Let it shift the way you live. The second step is to study. Learn about the afterlife. Read the teachings of Edgar Cayce. Read the near-death experiences of those who have crossed over and come back. Study the ancient wisdom traditions that speak of the soul's journey. Do not accept these teachings blindly. Question them, test them, meditate on them, but do not ignore them, because knowledge is power. And the soul that enters death with knowledge does not stumble in confusion. It walks with confidence. It knows what to expect. It knows where it is going. The third step is to practice letting go. Every day, practice releasing attachment. Let go of your need to control. Let go of your clinging to people and things. Let go of your identification with your body, your name, your story. Practice seeing yourself as a soul, a being of light that is only temporarily living in a physical form. This does not mean you stop caring about your life. It means you hold it lightly. You enjoy it without grasping. You love without possessing. And when the time comes to leave, you will be able to do so with grace. The fourth step is to cultivate love. This is the most important preparation. Because love is the substance of the higher realms. Love is the frequency that opens the gates of light. If your heart is filled with love when you die, you will move smoothly into the realms of love. But if your heart is filled with anger, bitterness, resentment, or fear, then you will be pulled into the lower realms. So work on your heart now. Forgive those who have hurt you. Make peace with your past. Let go of grudges. Choose love over fear. Choose compassion over judgment. Choose kindness over cruelty. And when the moment of death comes, your heart will be ready. The fifth step is to pray and meditate. Build a relationship with your guides now. You do not have to wait until death to meet them. They are with you right now. They have always been with you. Speak to them. Ask for their guidance. Listen for their whispers. Meditate in silence and feel their presence. The more you connect with them now, the easier it will be to recognize them when you cross over. You will not be meeting strangers. You will be reuniting with old friends. The sixth step is to live with purpose. Understand that you are here for a reason. You are here to learn, to grow, to serve, to love. And when you live with this understanding, when you make choices that align with your soul's purpose, then death becomes less frightening, because you will know that you did what you came here to do. You will have no regrets, no unfinished business, no weight holding you back. And the soul that leaves the body with a sense of completion moves through the transition with ease. The final step is to trust.
Trust that you are safe. Trust that you are loved. Trust that death is not an ending, but a doorway. Trust that the universe is not indifferent to you. Trust that you are a part of something vast and beautiful and eternal. And when the moment comes, when your heart takes its last beat, when your breath leaves your body for the last time, trust that what comes next is exactly what you need. Trust that the guides are there. Trust that the light is real. Trust that you are going home. These 12 hours are not something to fear. They are something to prepare for. They are a sacred passage, a threshold between worlds. And if you approach them with knowledge, with love, with trust, then they will not be a time of struggle. They will be a time of transformation, a time of release, a time of profound peace. Because you will understand what is happening. You will recognize the guides. You will follow the light. And within those 12 hours, you will complete a journey that has been unfolding since the moment you were born. You will return to the source. You will remember who you really are. And you will step into the next chapter of your eternal existence with joy and wonder and gratitude.
Death is not the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy. Fear is the enemy. Resistance is the enemy. But death itself is a friend, a teacher, a liberator. And those who understand this, those who have studied the teachings of Edgar Cayce and other spiritual masters, those who have prepared their hearts and minds for this moment, they do not die in fear. They die in peace. They die in trust. They die knowing that they are simply moving from one room to another, from one level of consciousness to another, from one state of being to another. And the soul that crosses over with this understanding does not linger in confusion. It does not become earthbound. It does not struggle in the gatekeeper phase. It moves smoothly, gracefully, joyfully into the realms of light. And there it is welcomed. There it is celebrated. There it is reminded of its true nature. And there it begins the next phase of its infinite journey. This is what Edgar Cayce taught. This is what the first 12 hours are truly about. Not fear, not darkness, not separation, but transition, transformation, and ultimately, reunion with the divine source from which all souls come and to which all souls return. So do not wait until the moment of death to prepare. Begin now. Study now. Practice now. Open your heart now. And when your time comes, you will be ready. You will not struggle. You will not resist. You will simply let go, follow the light, and step through the gate into the infinite love that has been waiting for you all along.